So let me start off by saying I move around a lot in between, so California and Arizona. At the at the time of this, December 2015, I was still living in Southern California at my grandma's apartments. I'd gotten a seasonal job at Toys R Us to do something with my time and learn some people skills. I am a 24-year-old girl and have some pretty extreme social anxiety and find it really hard to talk to people, so I figured this job would help. Another important thing to mention, my grandmother is on a government program with a reduced housing cost and has a two-bedroom apartment ever since my grandfather passed. But due to the annual check at her complex, she is supposed to be the only inhabitant of her dwelling. So technically I was not supposed to be living there, but with her, but she liked the help and company, and I liked being rent-free. Now, since I wasn't supposed to be there, I technically had to sneak around and most definitely couldn't park on the parking ground for the complex as it would draw attention. There was a cemetery across the street from the complex, and then half a mile of houses leading down the street next to the cemetery, along which most of the visitors for the houses and apartments nearby, including myself, parked. I was getting free rent and staying with my grandma, which was awesome to me, even if it meant I had to usually park half a mile away from the complex. I didn't mind the walk. So all was well for a few months from when I got the job in October, minus a scary incident with a stalker at work. I'll leave that story for another time. But eventually they started putting me on night shifts, which I definitely did not mind since I tend to be a night owl. Also, if you've ever been on closing shift at any retail store, you'll know you can easily stay an hour or two overtime after the store closes during reshop during the holiday season. It was early December at the time I ended up getting off at work past 2 a.m. Around this hour at the time of year in this part of social, the mist got unbearably thick, to the point of having to drive 30 miles down a freeway with brights on and still being unable to see a foot or two in front of your car. Tonight was one of those nights. I wasn't too bothered by it at that time, but it does set off my anxiety a little bit. So by the time I got home, and it took me nearly 20 minutes to find a parking space, I was feeling pretty anxious. Of course, with my luck, I parked at the very end of the half-mile stretch. Now it's kind of tradition of mine to get out of the car, close the door, and linger near my car for a minute, while I audibly stretch a bit and sometimes complain. Today sucked. It's just a little habit thing I do, and tonight was no different. I immediately, after tucked my purse under my arm, turned on my phone flashlight and stuck it in front of my face to see where I was going because the fog was so thick I couldn't see a foot in front of my face. I had walked in this weather many times before, so I knew my way home. A straight shot for half a mile and a sharp turn left at the end of the cemetery, then closing the streets and into the gated complex, so I was on my merry way until I heard it. A loud, almost obnoxious cough and footsteps. My alert mode set in, and I instantly started walking faster and trying to be quieter about my movements. Call me paranoid, but I've had a fair number of let's not meet moments, and I certainly wasn't keen about meeting this stranger walking behind me, especially given the fact that I can't see a foot in front of my face, even with streetlights and my flashlight phone, or my phone flashlight. This continues for a few minutes with an occasional cough behind me, and then I hear it whistle the kind cat callers do, which bewilders me because, 1, you can't see shit, and 2, since you can't see shit in this weather, I assume the person is purposely intimidating me, at which point I give up give up on walking and break into a run. The steps behind me break into a full-blown run, and I hear panting. Clearly this dude isn't the best in shape. Neither am I, but the run didn't win me as bad. But now I'm speed walking next to the cemetery, and for some godforsaken reason, my panicked mind tells me it would be better to duck into the cemetery and hide instead of walking the straight shot home. Had there been no fog, I would have had a clear view of my grandma's apartment from the area in the cemetery where I stood. I quickly hid by crouching behind the entrance post to the cemetery gate, and I knew I fucked up, because his footsteps stopped too, and I could tell he knew I was hiding because of my lack of audible footsteps. I crouched there for what seemed like 10 minutes, too scared to turn on my phone for fear of him being close enough to see the light and find me, and too scared to make a run for it, for fear that he was intently listening out for me. I figured he was standing probably 5 to 10 feet away from where I was at the entrance driveway to the cemetery, right before the gates, which was confirmed when, after minutes, I heard his voice say, "I know you're there, sweetheart." I heard the distinct sound of a lighter being struck and then smelled cigarette smoke. I figured this dude was focused on his cigarette, and I made a run for it across the cemetery, somehow not tripping over any graves, all while intently trying to listen behind me. The cemetery's main entrance has wrought iron fences, but the back and right end is wooden and serves as a separator between the cemetery and the backyard of various houses, and the other side, which is in front of my grandma's apartment, is chain link. There is no other entrance or exit to the cemetery, but I know the chain link fence doesn't go all the way to the ground, so I laid on my stomach, pushed the fence out, and wiggled across and ran directly across the street to my grandma's house, pounding on her door until she opened. I don't know how this dude found me, but he must have been standing around nearby as I parked and heard me complain to myself loudly when I got out of the car. But either way, that was one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had. So creepy stalker guy in South San Diego who likes to come out of the mist and terrify women as 3 a.m. Let's never meet again.